We should hear it. Let's give it a sec. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We're here with Representative Park Cannon of District 58 in Georgia. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Erin Velarde. I'm the founder of Vote Run Lead. Park is one of our fave alumni who we are just so glad to be amplifying your voice and your leadership. Especially this week, there's been so much going on. And so I know you are at the Capitol right now. So Representative Cannon is going to mute and unmute as we go because she is in a semi-public place, but she's a tech pro. So we are excited to have her join us. And let's dive in. Park, we're really interested in a lot has been happening in the legislature right now. We just the hate crime bill being passed this week. We want to hear what your experience has been back in the legislature and what it's been like for you these past couple of days.
Well, thank you to everyone who has been a part of our people-powered movement since 2015, when I decided to run for office because of the impacts of racial injustice on my family personally and on my community. When we found out in 2010 that the FBI was reporting that white supremacist groups were infiltrating policing systems across the country, including here in Georgia, and then our family's house was vandalized that same year by hate groups, I knew that we had to have a young leader who was willing to speak up about those very vulnerable experiences. And in doing so, we have actually had some changes in policy. We have put forward proposals for police accountability, specifically around excessive use of force. And this issue of excessive use of force is all around the country, with a lot of Vote Run Lead alum right now who have had to unfortunately address their communities on violence and on issues across Minnesota and you name it, here in Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery. And then here in District 58 at the Wendy's, where Rayshard Brooks lost his life. So we have been thankful to have put in House Bill 636 and some other things that create registries. And even though we were excited about those policy ideas, we decided to coalesce around the hate crime bill.
Yeah.
It was a diverse sponsorship. We had
It was. I peeked at that. Yeah, I was surprised.
Of the House.
Yeah.
GOP attorney, the Black Caucus chair. And so all of the social groups were able to come out, like Anti-Defamation League and League of Women Voters, even Coca-Cola, Delta. They let their people leave work and march to the Capitol to demand it. And luckily, House Bill 426 was passed by the House without protections for first responders or law enforcement, which was getting a little tricky towards the end. They tried to kind of put it in, and that passed on Tuesday, and the governor is signing it in an hour and a half.
Congratulations. Can you tell folks a little bit more about what those protections are? Because even on your Facebook page, it was this conversation of like, I don't want to use this word, but it felt like a loophole, right? It felt like one of those loopholes where it was like, oh, we're going to put this bill and then the teeth are going to get taken out of it, right? Which I think happens a lot as we work towards something, right? Even in the larger reform conversation, right? How do we make sure that as we are getting things done, it doesn't get watered down? So will you give us a little behind the scenes on how you made sure and your colleagues make sure that it had teeth?
Certainly. Well, I'm proud to be a part of the African American community, also the LGBTQ community. I'm a woman. And so there were different ways that we were trying to enshrine protections by adding categories of individuals, unmutable traits, some people will say, to the bill. And that part was okay at first, and everyone was hung up, if anything, on if they needed to include sex, as well as gender, as well as sexual orientation, as well as gender identity. And so there were organizations and groups that were able to help tease out, and especially with the Supreme Court ruling recently, we were able to see that for now, we have included sex gender, and sexual orientation. And those three will be able to help support the transgender community, which is important to our office. We are a queer office, and we really, really care a lot during Pride Month about making sure that the voice of the trans community is not lost in this hate crime conversation, because of course we are the ones experiencing hate. So when we start to talk about, well, what do we do when those categories of people have said that they've experienced this? And what we have learned, of course, hold on, let me ask my colleagues to just one second.
Real time, folks. She is at the Capitol. I love it. Look at the gentle face, the love that she's given them to ask to be a little bit quiet. Amazing.
Lovely, lovely colleagues, and they're having a great conversation over there. But when we got to that conversation about what do we do we create a report? Right. And does that report live within the GBI? Can the public see that report if there's not an arrest? Does that report go forward? Is it protected by people, the public being able to see open records? Or does that stay kind of like how in domestic violence and sexual assault situations, it's hidden from the public record? So there were those conversations going on, which I really keyed into, because when the hate crime happened to me in college, I truly, truly just wanted that information to go somewhere. I didn't really want anyone to get kicked out of school or serve time. I mean, we were college kids. I don't know. That wasn't my view of justice. And so
I didn't want it to be invisible.
Yeah, right.
Or erased, or right.
So I wanted that report to be really good. And we're proud that the reporting system that we have set up in this bill, House Bill 426, is really good. The last piece of it is what happens in adjudication. And we really give prosecutors a lot of discretion to decide. What are they going to do around enhancing people's penalties if hate crime is included in the charges? So if it's homicide plus hate crime, then they can use that hate crime to actually add 6 to 12 months to someone's sentence. And it's been a hard one. You know, organizations like the Southern Center for Human Rights and other groups have said, aren't we looking for criminal justice reform? Why would we want to be adding, time for people to serve in jail? Who is this going to impact? What if someone African-American says something hateful to someone in the LGBTQ community? Aren't we further putting Black men in jail? And so there's a lot of
complicated,
there. But as a Black woman from the South, I am so proud of the version of the hate crime bill. I think that it hits a really good balance, and I'm excited to see it get signed in an hour and 20 minutes now.
I love it. Thank you. And thank you for that wisdom. You are so smart. Every time I talk with you, it's always like just taking something super complicated and giving it to me. And it's like, okay, great. Even though I read 10 articles before this, it's like, no, now I get it. Let's talk a little bit about the election, the primary, and just the process of how Georgia has, I'll be gentle here and say not stepped up to the plate, right? And I think some of the outrage around seeing the difference between some of the more affluent communities, predominantly white communities, and the access points and the trouble and the lines that African Americans had in Georgia in exercising their vote. We talked with Mary Pat Hector, amazing young woman before this, who reminded me of the turnout numbers, right? The good news is that people exercise their right to vote. But as an elected official, what this is the struggle. Eyes are on Georgia around access and Stacey Abrams' gubernatorial race. I mean, everybody is really watching Georgia. What's happening on the ground? What did you see? And what should we be fighting for? How should we be helping our sisters in Georgia to make sure that these reforms around voter access and that they get passed and get legislated?
Oh, certainly. Breaking it down where our district is, it's a gerrymandered district. It starts up at Piedmont Park and affluent neighborhoods and rides the Rainbow Trail down to the state capitol where we are right now, and then snakes around where Dr. King was buried and hops over the highway to where Turner Field and the Braves used to play. And then as we start to see communities of color, communities without economic access, communities with food deserts, streets,
Yep.
all the way going out to South Fulton County. And so you have a district with Mid Fulton and South Fulton in it. And the disparities in voting just flowed, unfortunately, just like that. We unfortunately were the hub of that New York Times article at Park Tavern. Park Tavern is a place where folks go when they have a wedding, or they want to overlook the Piedmont Park, or they're having the skating rink. It's not a place that is even electrically fit to host an election. And so the local decisions that are being made, these local Fulton County Board of Elections, is where you need to focus. Tell them your experiences, help them understand that just because the high school that you normally vote at across the street was in construction, it wasn't okay for you to just say head across the street, but not put a sign on the door that said that, and people just walk up and see a construction site.
That's right.
Now,
that's right.
In the realm of the Secretary of State, that's a whole nother conversation that we want people to know. There is a state board of elections. That is his boss, and he works in conjunction with. So when they made the decision for the first time in Georgia's history to mail absentee ballot applications to every registered voter, regardless of if they had accidentally purged them last year, or if they didn't know what their address was, or if they had a forwardable address, or if they put a stamp on it, or if they even had the correct ballot for them, or even if they posted the correct email address for you to email it back to. They took their hands off and they said, well, it was our first time doing it. It was a out-of-state contract in Arizona. They told us it would take 1 week to get the ballots. We see it's taken 3 to 6 weeks. We're just so sorry. So right now, we, as our office, we have been appointed to a task force.
Great.
And we are helping to fix elections from top to bottom here in Georgia, and specifically in Fulton County. So any of the young women leaders, or any women leaders who want to be a part of our community advisory committee on elections,
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we're talking. Yep. And how can they get in touch with you to make that happen? Because people are fired up. I mean, you saw it in the turnout. So.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Literally over 1 million folks were voting that we weren't expecting. And I love the number that shows there are like 4 million young people who will turn 18 before the election in November. So we are a millennial team, a millennial staff. You can reach out to us on any of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or now TikTok, which is hilarious. And then, of course, I'd love to make sure folks have my cell phone. So 404-246-3790.
Thank you for sharing that. You're brave and amazing in sharing that. I want to talk sort of bigger picture. And we've been having these conversations now almost exclusively digitally with the COVID-19. But one of my first talks was actually with Latasha Brown, who I'm sure you know, and we kind of kicked off this conversation around reimagining our democracy. Right? What do we want? Not what can we get, and how do we rebuild it in a way that we are, taking the burden off of, folks to actually then go and register, like these 18-year-olds, right? They should be automatically registered. It should happen like that. Like I can take a picture of my check, and send it to my bank, and that's my money, like we've got to, those are tactical little things, but I want to hear your vision. I want to hear, what if there were 1 million more Park Cannons running and winning elected office? What would we see? What would our democracy look like? And what do you want it to shape up to?
I want it to be easier to vote, and I want folks to trust the system. But I know that it's not easy to vote, and folks don't trust the system. So we have to be implementing ways to bring folks closer to the process without making folks feel like they're getting played. I'm not here to play anyone on this Fulton County Elections Task Force and make it seem as though we are not going to stand up for what happened and speak truth about what happened. But I am going to say, Fulton County, you have a jail that has not been managed well for the past week. we have been hearing about fires and riots inside of the jail because of the issues related to COVID-19.
Yeah.
We don't need to continue to put people in that jail. We need to set people free and back into their communities. And we need to use that funding for your elections. We need to help people figure out if they were just in there on a misdemeanor, their right to vote ain't taken.
Right.
But if they get out of jail and are disenfranchised, they don't have their identification because the county jail doesn't give it back to them. They don't have a ride home. They've lost their job. They're trying to figure out their rent. Who is going to go and vote? For what? Who's even running? So I'm really hopeful that there will be a deeper conversation on the hashtag defund the police. I think that it is a hard conversation for many people to have because public safety is wrapped up in our policing forces.
Right.
And the idea of taking money away from our public safety is not something that I'm comfortable with. But what we are saying and what our democracy would say if there were more park cannons and when there are more park cannons on November 4th is that it has cost us too much already at the hands of the police. It is enough. We need to figure out how to defund them in some ways and reallocate those funds.
Yeah. And look to models. We've been talking a lot inside of VRL, and one of our fab interns has been doing research on Camden, and the police chief just put that Washington Post op-ed. It's like, here's how we did it and here's how it's better. And it's not that hard. You can do it too, and it was, I actually sent it to a couple of folks that I'm, doing my quiet convincing of, changing mindsets and hearts and minds in my own community. I know you have to run soon. I have like 5 questions, but I want to talk about you. You just, primary happened. You're in. Congratulations, of course.
Thank you to the 10,000 people and 587 who voted.
Yes, I love it. What are you hopeful for? What are you hopeful for, and in the short term, and what are you hopeful for in the long term?
Honestly, the hope has been coming from young people right now. We're calling this an uprising, and we're making it clear. Folks are not really all out here rioting and wanting to tear down their communities, but they're saying, we don't want a Wendy's. We want a community center.
Yeah.
And the business owner understands.
Yeah.
People are saying, we don't really want to be having to sell water on the exit ramps and you feel like you can't open your car door and you're scared of us. But we're literally providing you with a life source in order for us to be able to have a little snack money while we have not been in school since February. So the hope has been coming from the uprising of young people who have been standing up to oppression and saying, we have seen this before. It was photographed in black and white, and it was at our grandparents' house, and we thought it was history, but we're seeing ourselves be turned into these black and white photos at these protests, and we're not standing for any of the oppression to continue. So the hope that others, I believe, are seeing is that there is room in the millennial mindset. There is room in the youth voice. We want an advisory committee of folks over 40, over 50, over 60 who specifically would say, we stand here to support you. We stand here to mentor you. And that is the way that we will bridge the divide between the people's uprising and what is so beautiful and the way that the media and other access points are distorting it.
Yeah. And how old were you when you first got elected, Park?
I ran when I was 23. I got elected at 24, and I'm 29 today.
That's right. Love it. Well, thank you so much. We'll be celebrating with you from afar now in 1 hour and 8 minutes. With the signing. Congratulations on all your hard work. Keep it up. We need 1 million more of you in public office. And thank you for being a part of today with Vote, Run, Lead.
Go Vote, Run, Lead. Thank you so much for all that you do. Signing off from Georgia.
All right, folks, you behind the scenes in the Capitol, noisy colleagues and all, Representative Park Cannon, District 58. doing the work. So we have the Congresswoman joining us this afternoon at 3 o'clock. We have an amazing panel of activists and leaders at 1:15. So join us back here in about 20 minutes, and we'll continue to have conversations with women leaders in Georgia who are on the ground, on the front lines, doing the work. Thank you.